Yang Xinhai, also known as Yan Liu, Yang Jia, and the Monster Killer, emerged as one of China's most notorious serial killers and rapists. His chilling admission during an interview broadcasted on China's Central Television shed light on his motivations. He confessed, "When I killed people, I had a desire. This inspired me to kill more. I don't care whether they deserve to live or not. It is none of my concern. I have no desire to be part of society. Society is not my concern." Welcome back to Crime Scene Archives. In today's video, we'll be delving into the chilling story of Yang Xinhai, also known as the Monster Killer, one of China's most infamous serial killers and rapists. Join us as we explore the dark depths of Yang's psyche, from his troubled childhood to the heinous crimes that shook the nation. Warning: this video contains graphic content related to crime scenes. It is intended for educational purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised. Yang Xinhai was born on July 29, 1968 in Zhengyang County, Zhujian, Henan, China. Details about his childhood are scarce, but he was known to be the youngest of 4 children in a family facing extreme poverty in their village. Described as introverted and intelligent by some, Yang showed little interest in academic pursuits. He dropped out of school in 1985 at the age of 17 and began traveling across China, taking on various jobs as a general laborer. Between 1999 and 2003, Yang Xinhai carried out a series of horrifying crimes, including the murder of 67 individuals and the rape of 23 women across 4 provinces in China: Anhui, Shandong, Hebei, and Henan. Raised in poverty with a penchant for the arts, Yang Xinhai initially displayed ambition and determination to rise above his circumstances. Yet tragically, his ambition would ultimately catalyze a descent into unimaginable horror, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. His school was located far from his village, prompting his father to send him to live with a wealthier relative. However, upon arrival, young Yang found himself segregated. He wasn't permitted to dine with the family and had to procure his own firewood and food for cooking. The only care he received from this relative was the provision of shelter. It was during this period that he began to yearn for the warmth of his family, despite their poverty and despite the hardships they endured together. School life presented its own challenges. He felt deprived of basic necessities such as meal tickets, which his peers possessed. Resorting to gathering wild vegetables for meals and tending to cattle for extra income, he struggled to keep up academically, eventually dropping out of high school in frustration. His discontent reached a peak when he visited his father, expressing grievances about his living conditions and inability to afford meal tickets. Tragically, his father's attempt to rectify the situation by exchanging wheat for meal tickets came too late. By then, young Yang had already been absent from school for several days, prompting panic and a frantic search by his family. However, their efforts were in vain. He had disappeared, lost in the depths of his own turmoil. In a poignant letter to his family, young Yang revealed his decision to forsake education in pursuit of practical work. However, his quest for financial stability proved to be a fraught challenge. Despite securing a job as a cook for construction workers, he found the pay insufficient, leading him to resort to theft. This criminal act marked the beginning of his descent into a life of crime, fueled by a sense of empowerment from his ill-gotten gains. He embraced this newfound path wholeheartedly. Despite intermittent brushes with the law and financial instability from unscrupulous employers, he remained committed to his criminal endeavors. His resilience and determination in this illicit pursuit mirrored the dedication he once applied to education and honest labor. However, his criminal activities eventually caught up with him. In 1988, he was arrested for pickpocketing and sentenced to a labor camp. Despite his release 2 years later, he continued his petty thefts only to be arrested again in 1991. His romantic hopes shattered upon discovering his lover's betrayal. He spiraled further into darkness, adding sexual crimes to his repertoire. In 1996, he attempted to assault a woman, leading to his first sexual offense conviction and a 5-year prison sentence. During his time in prison, he harbored a deep-seated hatred for humanity, exhibiting a callous disregard for human life and a chilling indifference to the sanctity of existence. Had the authorities been aware of the extent of his transformation during his incarceration, they might have deemed him too dangerous to release. Upon his early release in 2000, Yang's girlfriend discovered his criminal past, prompting the end of their relationship and marking the beginning of his horrifying spree of murder and rape. It's believed that his subsequent actions over the following 4 years were driven by a desire for vengeance against society. On September 20, 2000, in a remote village in Hunan province, a resident made a troubling discovery. The elderly couple, 70-year-old Yang Ping and his wife Shan Liying, had been brutally murdered, their bodies bearing vicious stab wounds. However, the most chilling aspect was the presence of holes in their foreheads, inflicted with a hammer and steel rod. The heinous nature of the crime perplexed the villagers, prompting their own amateur investigations before the arrival of the authorities. Suspicion fell upon a neighbor named Yang Di, who had a history of conflicts with the victims. Despite messy detective work, the police could not conclusively link him to the crime, and he was ultimately sentenced to a year in prison for unrelated theft charges. However, it would later become evident that Yang Di was innocent, and the true culprit behind the gruesome murders was Yang Xinhai. This marked his first known act of homicide. For his second murder, he ventured from Hunan province to Anhui province, a journey spanning a staggering 400 miles. There, he targeted a 62-year-old Qi Zhongying and her grandchildren. The scene was one of horror, with the victims subjected to brutal violence. Qi Zhongying, renowned for her strength, and her grandchildren fell victim to Yang Xinhai's merciless rampage. Despite his seemingly frail appearance, he possessed a cunning ability to prey upon unsuspecting victims,